Hiking. A great way to immerse yourself in nature, enjoy the fresh air, and explore new lands. But have you ever wondered how many mysteries are waiting for you among the dense trees and deserted trails? There are paths that no one dares to set foot on after sunset. There are forests that locals always warn you not to go alone. And there are scary stories about people who have entered but never came out. Today, I will tell you 3 true stories of hiking trips that turned into nightmares. If you think getting lost in the woods is the scariest thing, then you don't know what really lurks in the dark. Story 1. Running at night has always given me a sense of freedom that is hard to find elsewhere. The cool night air, the twinkling stars above, and the quiet of a New Jersey nature reserve are like my own personal sanctuary. But one night, my daily running routine turned into the dreaded run of my life. The evening began like any other. I walked down the familiar path, my footsteps echoing softly in the silence. Halfway through, I noticed a flash of movement in the darkness ahead. Squinting, I made out the shape of a clown, eerily illuminated by the pale moonlight. His garish makeup was smeared into a twisted smile that sent shivers down my spine. But what really paralyzed me with fear was the stick he held in his hand, long, sinister spikes protruding from it, scratching menacingly at the ground as he walked toward me. My heart pounded, and a cold fear welled up in my stomach. The clown's eyes locked onto mine, and I could feel the malice in his gaze. Panic surged through me, and my survival instincts kicked in. Without a second thought, I turned and sprinted down the path, my breath coming in gasps. The forest around me blurred as I ran, each rustling leaf and snapping branch adding to my I didn't dare look back, too afraid of what I might see. My legs burned from the effort, but I had to push harder. The once peaceful sanctuary had turned into a nightmarish maze, each shadow hiding a potential threat. The clown's sinister presence seemed to grow closer with each step. Finally, my car came into view, parked under the dim glow of a street lamp. I practically threw myself inside, slamming the door shut and locking it with shaking hands. My chest heaved as I tried to catch my breath, my body shaking with a mixture of fear and relief. Safely inside the car, I dared to glance back at the road. The clown was nowhere to be seen, but the memory of his twisted smile and the menacing scratching of the bat remained seared in my mind. I vowed never to return to that place again, this once beloved haven now tainted with fear. Even now, the mere sight of clowns filled me with a fear that ran deep into my bones. That night run, once a source of comfort, had become a haunting reminder of the dark forces that could lurk in the shadows. Story 2. Camping alone has always been my sanctuary, a way to reconnect with nature and escape the hustle and bustle of everyday life. There is something incredibly peaceful about the isolation, the silence, and the stars shining brightly above. But one night in the remote woods shattered that peace forever. The evening began like any other. I set up my tent, lit a campfire, and enjoyed the soothing sounds of the woods. As the fire burned down to embers and the night grew darker, I felt a pleasant drowsiness settle over me. Just as I was about to drift off, I heard footsteps, slow and cautious, circling around my tent. My eyes widened, and I held my breath, trying to listen. The footsteps continued, each one steady and taunting. Fear prickled at the edge of my consciousness. Gathering my courage, I looked outside, my heart pounding in my chest. The tent door was ajar, but there was no one in sight. The night was eerily quiet, the silence adding to my unease. I quickly retreated into my tent, trying to shake off the feeling. That was when I noticed it. An old walkie-talkie lying on the ground inside my tent. I hadn't brought one with me. My pulse quickened as I stared at the device, willing it to be silent. But then, it crackled, emitting a strange labored gasp. My blood ran cold. The gasps grew louder, more frantic, filling the tent with a sense of suffocating terror. My instincts screamed for me to run, but my body was paralyzed with fear. Suddenly, a loud bang sounded just outside the tent. The spell was broken. I grabbed my keys and dashed out of the tent, not caring what was going on outside or who was playing this weird game. I ran to my pickup truck, heart pounding, and fumbled with the keys. Finally, I started the engine and headed down the forest path, the dark forest closing in behind me. That night changed everything. The peaceful solitude I once cherished was now tainted with fear. Memories of deliberate footsteps and strange, frantic panting haunt my dreams to this day. I have never camped alone since, and the thought of it makes me shudder. The forest, once a place of comfort, now held a sinister shadow, a reminder of the unseen horrors that could lurk in the darkness. Story 3. There is something uniquely peaceful about hiking alone in the dense forests of Pennsylvania during the cool of autumn. The leaves, a riot of reds, oranges, and yellows, create a breathtaking carpet against the clear blue sky. Each step brings a pleasant crunch underfoot. I have ventured outside to escape the chaos of everyday life, to seek solace in the embrace of nature. Little did I know that my peaceful hike would turn into an unforgettable nightmare. As I rested on a fallen log, sipping water and soaking in the silence, a cold sound pierced the silence. It was the cry of a child, faint at first, but growing louder and more desperate. My first reaction was disbelief. Surely my mind was playing tricks on me. But the crying continued, a painful wail stirring a primal sense of urgency deep within me. Forced to investigate, I got up and followed the sound. As I meandered through the trees, I came across a woman, her features disheveled, her eyes wild with panic. She was frantically searching for her child. "Have you seen my child?" she pleaded, her voice trembling with despair. A shiver ran down my spine as I assured her that I would help. But then, as suddenly as she had appeared, she was gone. I stood there, blinking in confusion, trying to make sense of what had just happened. Looking around the area, I saw her again. She was standing across a narrow river, her expression strangely blank, almost doll-like. A wave of cold fear washed over me. Something was terribly wrong. Her presence felt otherworldly, her eyes staring at me with a blankness that froze me in place. Panic surged through me, and without a second thought, I turned and ran. The forest around me faded as I sprinted back to the trail, my mind racing with fear and confusion. The haunting image of her blank gaze was seared into my memory. To this day, I cannot walk in the woods without feeling her gaze on me, a ghostly reminder of that fateful encounter. Thinking back to that day, I cannot shake the feeling that I had encountered something beyond my understanding, something that challenged the boundaries of reality. The forest, once a place of peace and quiet, now harbored a strange, terrifying presence. The memory of that woman and her cold cry remains with me, a haunting echo in my mind, a whispering reminder of the thin veil between the natural and the supernatural.